Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover today. And we're starting here with a pretty significant one that just came out, but we do have to be cautious and skeptical of the source. But it has to do with Sony apparently looking to acquire Warner Bros. So this is being reported by WCCF Tech. It says earlier this month, Warner Bros. Discovery announced that it would split itself into two entities by mid-2026. The first one, WBD Global Networks, will remain focused on the company's traditional cable programming with sports, news, and entertainment. The second entity, WBD Streaming and Studios, will spin off with HBO, the TV series and movie production, as well as the gaming division of Warner Bros. Discovery. Many analysts have identified the possible motive behind the split in a potential sale for the latter, way more successful side of the company. Now, just a few days after the announcement, the Wrestling Scoop website SC Scoops reckons Sony is already considering purchasing WBD Streaming and Studios. Needless to say, this would make perfect sense for Sony from a strategic standpoint. It would considerably bolster its movie, TV series, and gaming production and give it access to some of the biggest intellectual properties in entertainment, such as the DC Universe, Harry Potter, and Game of Thrones. Now, it's all a bit premature at this stage since the split will have to happen first. As such, even if an acquisition deal is eventually reached, it may not be announced until 2027. Regarding the legitimacy of the source, SC Scoops has seen a long track record when it comes to wrestling leaks, but it's still worth taking the rumor with a big grain of salt. Moving to analyze the gaming side, we know Warner Bros. Discovery has suffered heavy losses in that division. Despite the massive success of Hogwarts Legacy, several other games have failed. Just yesterday, we learned of a restructuring within Warner Bros. Games around its four key IPs: Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, DC, and Mortal Kombat. It's hard to say whether Sony's acquisition would improve this division's situation in any meaningful way. Gamers probably shouldn't be too concerned about those games becoming PlayStation exclusive, though. They're simply too big to make sense as exclusives. So as I said, we want to take this with a big grain of salt. You know, when it comes to leaks like this, right, or scoops like this, acquisitions, it's impossible to know if there's any legitimacy to it. But what I will say, and why I think it's worth entertaining the possibility of this, is that Sony was trying to acquire Paramount. And this is, I think, significant because when you look at WB, as the article states here, if Sony were to actually acquire them, it's certainly not a gaming-first acquisition, right? It's not necessarily for their gaming studios or the games that they could produce with that IP. Of course, that's a significant part of it, right? Like, that's something that I think maybe incentivizes Sony even more to consider trying to pursue this. But it's really for everything else, the movies, the TV side of it. We know that this is something that Sony is really trying to get more heavily invested into. And so if WB is actually up for sale, you could kind of see why Sony would maybe want to get on board with that. Now, when it comes to the gaming side of things, it would be interesting to see Sony acquire some of these studios, such as Avalanche Software. You know, they're working on a Hogwarts Legacy sequel, NetherRealm, Mortal Kombat, Injustice, Rocksteady. I mean, they're working on a new Batman game, of course, which will be single player, so maybe they'll be able to kind of return to greatness. I don't know, we'll have to see. But TT Games, they make the Lego titles, WB Games Montreal, and WB Games Boston. So those are all the studios underneath WB. And if Sony were to, you know, acquire WB, they would get those studios, and it would be interesting. You know, the article says here that these games wouldn't be exclusive if Sony acquired them, but I'm not so sure. I mean, I could see Sony certainly taking something like Hogwarts Legacy 2 and, you know, releasing it first on PS5 and then bringing it to PC later. But, you know, if Sony were to go through with an acquisition like this, it wouldn't be surprising if they wanted to, you know, keep these studios multi-platform. But either way, this is something that has, you know, just popped up and is making the rounds. And as the article states, and this is the final thing I'll say, is even if something like this does go through, it's not going to happen for a few years. WB is in the process of kind of like splitting the company, and that's going to take time. And so if an acquisition does occur, that's going to take even more time. But yeah, there you go. Let me know your thoughts about this rumor. Moving on to the next set of topics, we are talking about Death Stranding, starting with the trophy lists. Obviously, we're not going to go over all the trophies, but in case you're wondering how difficult it's going to be to get the platinum, it seems like it's not going to be too hard. Being reported by PlayStation Lifestyle, it says Death Stranding 2 on the beach is just around the corner. In just over a week, PS5 players will be able to play the next game by the legendary video game creator Hideo Kojima. While it isn't quite out yet, it seems the trophy list is, and the Platinum Trophy doesn't seem too hard to obtain. According to Power Picks, Death Stranding 2 will have a total of 55 trophies. The breakdown is 1 Platinum, 2 Gold, 6 Silver, and 46 Bronze trophies. Many of the trophies look story-related or doing some action for the first time. If anything, the Platinum looks like it'll just be time-consuming, but a pretty easy one overall. So again, we're not covering the trophies here, no spoilers, but from what I've heard from people who did look at the list, it looks like it's quite similar to the trophy list in Death Stranding 1. Continuing to talk about Death Stranding, we have being reported here by Push Square, the original Death Stranding is a very story-heavy game, and since it has been 5.5 years since it released, it's possible that you're fuzzy on some of the details going into the sequel next week. As such, Kojima Productions has stepped in to provide an official story recap video. The studio has summed the first game's narrative up inside 6 minutes and 19 seconds of video, which is impressive in itself. Prepare for Sam's epic journey in Death Stranding 2 on the beach with this essential story recap of Death Stranding, the YouTube description states. The video covers Sam's journey from the opening few hours, where Sam is given the BB he begins to form a bond with, to his later encounters with Higgs and several large BTs. The whole point of Death Stranding was to connect the USA to the chiral network, and in the sequel, Sam attempts to do the same for Mexico and Australia. So, wanted to point this out because, yeah, I think a lot of people who did play Death Stranding, I'm one of those people when it launched, don't really remember the story, or at least many details of the story. So not everybody's going to want to go back and replay Death Stranding in preparation for the sequel. So I thought it was definitely worth pointing out that they put out, a 6.5 minute video here that recaps everything. I'm going to be checking it out, and I just wanted to let you guys know. Moving on to the final topic regarding Death Stranding 2, we have a report here from WCCF Tech that says at some point during development, Hideo Kojima made some changes to Death Stranding 2 on the beach because the game was doing too well during playtests and wasn't polarizing enough, according to the game's co-composer. Speaking in a lengthy interview with Rolling Stone, French composer Woodkid talked about working with Hideo Kojima on the game and how challenging it was to write music that changes in real time while playing, and how difficult it was to put together the eclectic mix of musical genres for the game's soundtrack. When asked at the end of the interview about something essential the composer learned when working on the game, Woodkid mentioned how one day Hideo Kojima confirmed his intention of making changes to the game because it was being too well received in playtests. These changes, which reportedly include some script changes and the way some important events play out, were meant to make the game more polarizing, trigger more emotions, and ensure people would love the game after initially disliking it, as this is how something gets loved for real, Kojima-san reportedly said. So this is just funny to me because it's like, if any other video game developer said anything like this, I think they would get like a tidal wave of pushback. But I think Kojima's like really one of the only people, if not the only person, that can get away with saying this because he's Kojima. And some people may see that as not fair, but we saw what he did with MGS2, and he did make it clear that, he wishes Death Stranding 2 was just ultimately more controversial and more polarizing. But you can't help but wonder, what exactly, when we finish playing the game and we see the major story beats and events that play out, what exactly did he change? What was going to be different, right? But I thought that was worth covering. We're going to move on to the final topic of the video here, though, which is something that's honestly not surprising, but still important. This is being reported by Push Square. It says Bungie has confirmed it's issuing an indefinite delay to its upcoming PS5 PC extraction shooter Marathon. A new release date has yet to be revealed, but more news will be shared towards the end of 2025. In a post on the official Bungie website, the developer said, "Through every comment and real-time conversation on social media and Discord, your voice has been strong and clear. We've taken this to heart, and we know we need more time to craft Marathon into the game that truly reflects your passion. After much discussion within our dev team, we've made the decision to delay the September 23rd release. With the extra development time, Bungie states it will empower the team to create the intense, high-stakes experience that a title like Marathon is built around. This means deepening the relationship between the developers and the game's most important voices, our players. It's focusing on upping the survival game, doubling down on the Marathon universe, and adding more social experiences. This will result in better AI encounters in the PvPvE project, more environmental storytelling, and a better experience for solo and duo players. You'll hear from us again later this fall when we can share more progress that we've made alongside the game's new release date. Thank you again for your patience and, much more importantly, your passion. Your continued feedback will help us make Marathon the incredible gaming experience we all know it can be. So, yeah, this is, again, not surprising at all. I think it's, unfortunate that they just seemingly are not going to acknowledge anymore. I mean, I guess it makes sense from like a more business PR standpoint, but they're not going to acknowledge that the major pushback they got recently was for plagiarizing an artist. But this, I guess, makes sense. I don't know that I or many other people have that much hope in the future of Marathon. I think delaying it is the right choice. I mean, just putting it out there to kind of die, as we saw Sony do with, Concord, was the wrong choice and the wrong decision. So, that I don't know how much time they're going to need here to get this game where it needs to be or where they believe it needs to be. But considering how much pushback there's been towards this game, I feel like it needs like a soft reboot or something. And I don't know if that's what this is going to be, but, good luck to Bungie. I'll be interested to see what changes they make, but I don't know that I really have that much hope at the end of the day. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, take care.